Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with some more Esoterica. Today we're diving back into the works of Laozi. This is the Dao De Jing. We are reading aloud and discussing as we go along the various points brought to light by the text. It is not the format for everyone, but people do find value in it, so you are more than welcome to tag along as we continue our exploration. Before we begin, however, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time I lose you in terminology, there will be several playlists linked in the corner above and the box down below, along with the original source material and the link for my book, where I teach you to do magic responsibly, so that you can get a better understanding of who I am and why I say the things that I do. It has been brought to my attention that I don't have the right translation for this, but I have decided to continue on even though this guy did not translate well, because there are still items that can be discussed. We've already started and there has been much to discuss as we have started, and so I fully expect to continue in that vein, but it is with the understanding that maybe the understanding of the Tao was not exactly correct, and that is just one of the things we're going to have to deal with. But let us continue our exploration with number 17. In the highest antiquity, the people did not know that there were their rulers. In the next age, they loved them and praised them. In the next, they feared them. In the next, they despised them. Thus it was that when faith in the Tao was deficient in the rulers, a want of faith ensued in the people. How irresolute did those earliest rulers appear, showing by their reticence the importance which they set upon their words. Their work was done and their undertakings were successful, while the people all said, "We are as we are of ourselves." Alright, so there's a couple of things to be discussed here. One is the cycle of humanity. This is a cycle that occurs, right? Weak men create good time, or strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men therefore create bad times, which therefore creates strong men. That is a cycle that does persist, and we are in the midst of that right now. One of the ways that it manifests is kind of like this, right? Whenever you institute a system, it is running as it should, and then over time you gain entropy, right? Different parts lose the power that should be there. Other parts gain power that may not necessarily supposed to be there. And the system gets discordant. The best way of governing oneself is communalism. That is not communism, but communalism. Living communally. That is, you taking care of your neighbors and your neighbors taking care of you as appropriate. Not as charity cases, but in times of need. Coming together to provide for those who are in need and giving assistance where it is due, but without the governmental structures that we currently have being over the top of us. But there's a problem with that, right? If I decide that I want to live in a communal system and it's just me and 400 people, well, there is nothing at all stopping someone else from coming over and taking my things. If they have 500 people, they might be able to do it, right? Government is meant to protect that. That is not what they do, but that is what they are supposed to do. In that case, they are allowing you to govern yourself for the most part, but they step in the points of contention. Whether that is with you and an outside influence, such as a neighboring state trying to invade you, which is a function of the government to protect you from a neighboring state, or whether that is your neighbor stepping into your property rights, your personal rights. The government intervenes to correct that situation because it's hard to work out on your own. Human nature being what it is. When government is functioning right in the highest antiquity, you don't even really realize that they're there unless there is a need, right? But if there is a need and they come in and they execute that need faithfully and fully, giving justice out where justice is due, then they get loved. They get praised. That love and praise might lead them into a little bit of a headiness, and that headiness can cloud their judgments, and maybe the judgments that they make from that point forward are not as wise. They are not as equitable. They are not as blind. And therefore, then people start to fear, because am I on the right side of the scale or the left side of the scale? How does the system view me? Right? That develops fear, but that is because it has been successful in the past and they are not paying attention to that, losing the lessons. In the next, they despise them, because once you start making the choices with a little bit of power, it is really easy to make those choices entirely dependent upon that power. Well, of course, I'm going to make the decisions that are going to benefit my friends, as opposed to decisions that might be to their detriment, but for the better overall. Well, if you're making decisions based upon prejudice, you are going to get despised. That is the natural outflow. That is the natural outflow of government unrestrained. If we do not take upon ourselves the responsibility to hold their feet to the fire, hey, bruh, you are exceeding your bounds. Hey, you are not giving fair and equal justice. Hey, you are not doing the things that we have put you into this place to do. Then you get degradation. It is up to us, as the individual, to ensure that our representatives, whom we elect, are actually representing us in the way that we want them to. And if they are not, to make our displeasure quite known, right? Not to despise, but to correct. It is much better to correct and get back into the love and praise part than it is to allow the complete degradation. Now this next part, how irresolute did those earliest rulers appear, showing the importance which they set upon their words by their reticence. What reticence? The reticence to be overbearing. They were loved. Well, that generally means that they were actually doing their job correctly. Not necessarily, but normally, right? If you are doing it correctly, everybody loves you. If you are making sure that everybody is provided for, everybody loves you. If you're making sure that justice is equal, everybody loves you. There is no need to be reticent about any of that. The reticence comes in a little bit farther down the line, right? The reticence comes in when you're not making the appropriate decisions anymore, when society has become large to the point where it's less likely to hold that accountability into place. Those are fundamental flaws in governing systems, but we have governing systems for a reason. It is up to us to keep that in line. But I don't see how it was irresolute for them not to be overbearing, which was what they would have to do, right? If they were not going to be reticent about enacting their rule, then they would have to be overbearing. You must give me the authority. That is the exact wrong way to get authority, right? Authority is conveyed through proficiency if you are doing it correctly, right? The one who is most proficient is going to be the one calling the shots in the specific instance, not necessarily in every instance. And so you should be holding those people to the fire. Their work was done and their undertakings were successful, while people all said we are as we are of ourselves. That was the part where their government was not overbearing, right? Where it was doing its function without stepping in past its function. 18. When the great Tao, way or method, ceased to be observed, benevolence and righteousness came into vogue. Then appeared wisdom and shrewdness, and there ensued great hypocrisy. When harmony no longer prevailed throughout the 6 kinships, filial sons found their manifestation. When the states and clans fell into disorder, loyal ministers appeared. This is interesting. So, this could be any control structure, right? This does not have to just be the Tao. This could be Christianity. If you go back to the roots of Christianity and then you go back to the implementation of Christianity past Constantine, they are two completely different things. They are not even nearly related to each other. They are separated by a vast gulf. If you go back to the original Christianity and you put that into place, it is remarkably similar to the way. It is following the direction of the divine in all exceptions, right? With no exceptions, in all circumstances, doing what you should be doing in the right way is the call of Christianity. It has been distorted by the Gospels. It has been distorted by the further revelations. It has been distorted by the dogmas enacted by the various different churches, control systems. But that is a perversion. When it began, when it was actually observed in the right way, it was benevolence and righteousness, right? Now, when it ceased to be observed, benevolence and righteousness came into vogue. Those are going to be a function, right, of benevolence is going to be a function of greed and charity, but it is not generosity, which is generosity is giving the appropriate thing in the appropriate place, right? It is not being over generous and giving away all of your things. It is not being generous and not giving away anything. It is giving away the appropriate things. Benevolence is a little step too far towards charity. That is enabling victim mentality. I am better than you, benevolent, and I am going to provide for you. Instead of allowing you to provide for yourself, I'm going to give you. That is different than generosity. Generosity is, I don't have any bread. Do you have some bread I can borrow? I don't have any sugar. Here's some sugar, right? That is generosity. I have some, you need some, here it is. But it is not, I'm going to feed you all day, every day. That's not benevolence, right? It is termed benevolence, but it is not. The true benevolence would be enabling someone to be able to provide for themselves. Instead, it has become, I am going to give to you because you can't, as opposed to, I'm going to give to you because you need. There is a significant difference between those two things. Righteousness is going to be a function error between pride and humility, right? The proper balance between pride and humility is thankfulness. It is giving the appropriate thanks for both job well done and assistance, right? Righteousness is a function of I am better because of the steps that I am taking. That is pride. That is, I feel better because I am giving you these things because you can't. And while that may seem like a very good thing, it's not giving a need. It is fulfilling a want, and that want is a negative. If somebody is not working at all and making no effort to work at all, it is not your responsibility to feed them. It really isn't. It is your responsibility to help them to understand that they need to provide for themselves. That would be benevolent. It's the understanding of bringing them to a worthiness of themselves so that they can provide for themselves. That would be righteousness, right? That would be giving the appropriate energy. This is not, and that is why it goes bad. Then appeared wisdom and shrewdness. Now, this is an entirely wrong way of looking at wisdom. Wisdom is intellect, learning, properly applied, the practical application of the learning that you have attained. It is not thinking that you know everything. It is being able to use the things that you do know. That is what wisdom is, right? And so this is not right at all for that. Shrewdness, however, is being a little bit, it's kind of on the pride side of things, thinking that you are better, I am better, more able to make the decisions than you are. That would be shrewdness, right? This is talking about the feeling like you are wise, which is different from actually having wisdom, and being the feeling of that you are shrewd, right? I'm better at making decisions than you are. That may be true, but there's no reason to believe that, right? And that is even situational. I can make this decision well and make this decision poorly. Neither one of those are isolated from each other. They are both possibilities. And so, while you might be shrewd in this, you can be foolish in that. You should not be taking such pride in yourself that you always think that you make the correct decisions. That will lead to hypocrisy, which is saying one thing and doing another, right? I believe this and I am doing this instead is hypocrisy. When harmony no longer prevailed throughout the 6 kinships, That is interesting, right? That is intimating, like, I didn't do a deep dive. We did not do the background. I do not know which period in history that this was in, but it was probably somewhere that was divided into 6 regions, right? Those 6 regions were probably presided over by people who were related, right? The 6 kinships. Filial sons means that they were related by father, found their manifestation, right? And when the states and clans fell into disorder, loyal ministers appeared. That's a little bit weird, right? This is more of a history lesson than it would be an actual application. Uh, and even then, right, there is no guarantee that if the state falls, that a loyal minister will appear. There may be someone in a position of leadership that does appear, but it may not be related to the old control system at all. 19. If we could renounce our sageness and discard our wisdom, it would be better for the people 100-fold. If we could renounce our benevolence and discard our righteousness, the people would again become filial and kindly. If we could renounce our artful contrivances and discard our scheming for gain, there would be no thieves or robbers. Those 3 methods of government, thought old in ways and eloquence, did fail, and made these names their wants of worth to veil. But simple views and courses plain and true, would selfish ends and many lusts eschew. This is true, but it is impossible. Even if you decide, I am going to renounce my wisdom, which, no, right? It's this renounce your sense of wisdom, your claiming of wisdom. Don't dismiss your wisdom. Wisdom is practical intelligence applied, right? There is no need for that misunderstanding. But the overarching message is that if you can come down off of your high horse thinking that you are more important than other people, then there is true consideration of other people and everybody's needs get met in a filial way. Kindly, even. That is true, right? But it is impossible. Even if you decide, I'm going to get rid of this, he's not going to decide that. She's not going to decide that. One of them might, but both of them definitely will not. There will always be humanity. The only way that this takes place truly is if every single human comes into accordance. That is not a possibility. That is not even in the realm of possibility. It's not even something that you can really discuss, right? Communism works great on paper. It fails because of people. Libertarianism works great on paper. It fails because of people. This is the exact same thing. This is idealizing the concept that people can be great. And they can, individually, not as a group. The more people that you attach, the less likely it is to happen. We're working on 4 billion people on this planet. We can't get 3 people to agree on supper. You think you're going to get 4 billion people to agree to not go to war? Objectively, thinking about it, it's yeah, of course. But it's not going to happen. We are here for the experience, and the experience is dissonance. It is not harmony. There is lessons in harmony. We should strive for harmony. But the dissonance is where the contrast is measured. That is where growth comes. That is the reality that we live in. We will never be able to get to a point where there is no governmental system. People were not built that way. And I say never. It is possible. But even then, right? Yeah, and I say it is possible because I believe in the 12,000 year disaster cycle. And I do believe that humanity is about to undergo a severe reset. 98 to 99% of the population is probably going to die. Myself probably included. But there is a possibility on the backside of that we go back to communalism. And it is more than just a possibility, it is the likely outcome. But even then, there is still going to be a government. There is still going to be a structure. Somebody will be making the final decisions that will probably be determined better, but not necessarily, because you know what normally happens in these situations, right? Say, for instance, 99% of the population disappeared, right? That still leaves a very large chunk of the population out there. Not nearly what it is now, but there is still groups. And what is going to happen? Somebody is going to seize power. That is going to happen. Somebody with an especially charismatic attitude is going to go out and gather people to them. That's how charisma works. And they're going to want power because that is how human nature wants. And so they are going to set up themselves and their friends as despots, right? There will be technology left around that can be quite detrimental to humanity. There will be the ability to overtake other people, and people will take advantage of that. It is a natural outflow of the dissonance which we have. Now, my hope, what I want to happen, is that we set ourselves up for the other side of that without that possibility, as unlikely as that is. And the way that we do that, in my estimation, is to provide as many options as possible. And that is fleshed out by this. I would like to see as many people as we can possibly encourage to do so, and as many municipalities as we possibly can convince to do so, to create food forests, abundance. If right now we were to have a catastrophic event of the nature which is in the cards, there is not abundantly available in nature most of the things that we eat, right? There is the possibility that you will find wheat and you will be able to plant it if you're in places where they grow wheat. But down here in the South, that is not something that we do, right? We grow corn, we grow soybeans, we grow cotton. We don't grow wheat. We grow sugar cane, we grow molasses, we grow all kinds of things, but there are things that we don't. There are fruit trees that are unavailable. There are things that are not here. But if we had it set up where everything that will grow in this region is growing in this region, and all of a sudden 99% of humanity disappears, then there is provision available in a multitude of places that happen to survive. To me, that is going to be the best way to ensure that we come out on the other side aligned correctly, right? If we have little conclaves scattered all over the place of people who are aligned, that's another step in that direction, right? I want to build a school about life and how to function in reality. If we have 50 of those and 40 of them disappear, there's still 10 left, right? Schools for the other side of the event is one of my goals. All of that to say, right, there will be a control system. The best that we can hope for is that we can align the control system to be the least intrusive. All right, let's get back to the Tao. 20. When we renounce learning, we have no troubles. That is fucking false. Fucking false. The ready, yes, and flattering, yea. Small is the difference they display, but mark their issues good and ill, what space the gulf between shall fill. When we renounce learning, we have no troubles. It is quite possibly the most stupid thing ever uttered on the entire planet. Literally. Like, how fucking dumb is that? If we renounce learning on how to plant crops, we have no troubles. If we renounce learning on how to purify water, we have no troubles. If we renounce learning on how to make buildings structurally sound, we have no troubles. Really? Really? Renouncing learning. Wow. Renouncing pride? Yeah, okay. Renouncing selfishness? Got you. Good shit. Renouncing learning. I don't know that it is more possible to be aligned opposite to me than that. Right? The one thing I promote on all levels is that there is always something left to learn, and learning more is always good. Even if it brings about what seems to be a negative result, more information never brings about negativity. If you find out that your spouse is cheating, that can seem negative, but it's not. You have learned that this person is unreliable, that you might catch an STD because they are unreliable. And so while it may seem like a negative, it is actually a positive. There is no way of learning something where it is not actually a positive. None. Now you can pursue learning just for learning's sake. We see that in academia. That's not necessarily good, right? If you're just chasing your already determined outcome, that's not even really learning, and that is what's going on in the universities. They already know the answer, right? They're investigating to find out how to make their decision fit. We're going to make black holes fit whether or not the math actually works because we have decided that they are real. The math does not work. It doesn't. They have invented things, and when that doesn't work, they invent new numbers. They do that regularly. It is quite a thing. And that is all to explain something that they have decided is that is not. That would be a ready yes and a flattering yay, right? The ready yes is going to be the sycophant, the person giving the yes regardless. The same with the flattering yay. Neither one of those are good. You should give valid information every time. Once again, I'm going to point out I am exceedingly difficult to be around because I do not like lying at all. Right? There are times where it is necessary, but they are exceptionally few. Right? And for the most part, I do not participate. Right? If my wife asks me, does my butt look big in these britches? It might be a yes. Don't ask if you don't want the answer. Truth is more important. The ready yes is not a thing to me. The flattering yay is not a thing to me. I mean, there are issues, good and ill, and what is the space that they shall fill? Right? Don't do, right? Don't lie. But renouncing learning, what all men fear is indeed to be feared, but how wide and without end is the range of questions asking to be discussed. What all men fear is indeed to be feared. What would that be? Discomfort? That would be a good one. Are you trying to intimate death? Death is not to be feared. Death is a natural part of life. Without death, there is no life. Without death, there is no meaning to life. There is no reason to be here if there is no end to here. We're here for an experience. You don't get the experience if it continues. There's no reason to fear death, even if you don't know what's on the other side. I have a fairly good estimation of what I believe. It may not be the truth, but it's enough of a truth for me, right? It has literally changed my entire life. And so I don't fear death, right? I don't rush towards it. I'm not necessarily welcoming it, but I don't fear it at all. Right? At all. If it comes for me today, then I have a life well lived. Right? I didn't always. Go back a couple of years, I probably would have been a little bit more fearful. These days, I don't have any regrets. I have expressed myself openly and honestly. I have chased my dreams and desires within reason. I have done things that most people have not. I don't have any reason to regret it. And while I am fully prepared to be here for another 40, 50 years, that's a reasonable estimate. 90 is not bad, right? 100's is well within the realm of expectation if you take care of yourself especially. But if it ends tomorrow, right, it's fine, right? I'm not holding on to the hope that I will live 40 years. It'd just be nice to watch my grandchildren grow up. And it's not a fearful situation at all. If you are fearful about death and you don't have the understanding that you should, I do have playlists that might help with that. The multitude of men looking satisfied and pleased, as if enjoying a full banquet, as if mounted on a tower in spring. I, alone, seem listless and still, my desires having as yet given no indication of their presence. I am like an infant which has not yet smiled. I look dejected and forlorn, as if I had no home to go to. The multitude of men all have enough and to spare. I alone seem to have lost everything. My mind is that of a stupid man. I am in a state of chaos. All right, well, this is entirely victim mentality, right? First off, you shouldn't be comparing yourself to others. You should be seeking satisfaction and pleasure within yourself. You should be with a goal and striving for that goal, and that is where you find satisfaction and pleasure. It is that simple. You are supposed to work. You're not supposed to sit idle. As if enjoying a banquet. That is because they have the right mindset. I alone seem listless and still, which is a contradiction, right? Listless means that you cannot hold still. Still means that you cannot move. This is a direct contradiction to itself. Now, that is internal, I am sure, but right, you don't get listless and still. You get listless or still. It is that. My desires, having as yet given no indication of their presence, that is an internal problem. You have not done reflection. Self-reflection is how you discover your desires. It is how you figure out what you are good at, what you're not good at, what you find pleasure in, what brings you no pleasure. That is an entirely internal diligence that you have to have for yourself. Other people can assist with that. That is one of the things I am considering opening myself up for. Someone else can help you find your passion, but you're doing most of the work, right? You know what you enjoy doing. You know what makes money. The thing is to find the overlap. I am like an infant which has not yet smiled, right? Completely innocent. I look dejected and forlorn. That is entirely up to you. Again, that is mindset. As if I had no home to go to. You're making bad choices. The multitude of men, all, big word, have enough and to spare. Why worry the sparrow? It is provided for, right? The bird, the flowers of the field are adorned. What do I have to worry about? This is not to take away responsibility for you taking action. But if you are taking action, you will be provided for. If you are taking right action, that provision will be right. If you are taking wrong action, that provision will be correction. But you will be provided for either way. If you are taking the right actions, you will have enough and to spare. If you are not, you are being corrected. I alone seem to have lost everything. My mind is that of a stupid man. I am in a state of chaos, is again victim mentality. That is giving up the option that success is even possible. I'm just stupid. I'm in a state of chaos. If you speak this aloud, you are creating it. The things that you speak are the things that return. There are laws that govern this. I am working on that video, guy. But there is a cause and effect from the speech that happens. You are literally creating things. And if you are saying about yourself negative things, you are creating in yourself negative things. Bear that in mind when you speak about yourself. It is hard to correct that. I used to say these things. I do not anymore. Right? focus instead on I'm lacking information rather than I am stupid. Right? I have something left to learn is a positive spin. I am stupid is a negative spin. Choose wisely. Ordinary men look bright and intelligent. That is not true. While I alone seem to be benighted. They look full of discrimination, while I alone am dull and confused. I seem to be carried about as on the sea, drifting as if I had nowhere to rest. All men have their spheres of action, while I alone seem dull and incapable, like a rude borderer. Thus, I alone am different from other men, but I value the nursing mother, the Tao. No, you don't. Right? And once again, we have a reiteration of the victim mentality mindset. But that is not surprising, right? We have already seen that both of the other days. There is always something that you can do. There is always a step that you can take. It may not be readily available. It may not be readily apparent, but it is there. There is a decision that you can make that will alter the course that you are on at every single second in your life. Period. The end. You can decide to change your habits right now. Father's Day of 2019, I quit smoking. December 31st of 2019, I started taking charge of my health in a positive manner. Those were decisions that I made that changed my entire course, the entire trajectory of my life. There are choices like that every day that you can make. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to save money. I'm going to find a new job. I'm going to educate myself. There's always something that you can do. There's always a step, and it may take some time. It may take diligence, but you can get there. This is not that, right? This is giving in to that sense of despair. I just have to go with the flow. No. You have to take positive direction in your own life. You get to determine your experience. Not everything. There are bottlenecks. Some things will be beyond your choice, but most of your life is entirely up to you. Whether or not you study is up to you. Whether or not you did your homework in high school was up to you. Whether or not you got this job or that one was up to you. You make the decisions in your life. You are the decider in your timeline. And if you are choosing this, you are welcome to it. You can have it. That is your choice. I don't recommend it. It is much better to choose the positive side of things. I can attest to that through the things in my life, through the things in this book, through the things that I can positively show you. I have effected healing in my life. I have the abundance of the Spirit. I don't have a job. I survive on the welfare, right? I have Social Security disability. I worked my ass off for it. Right? By the time I was, 25, I had already maxed out benefits for Social Security. And then when I was 35, I got injured. And I needed those benefits. So it's not entirely charity, but all of what I do is directed towards finding another path where I'm not on Social Security disability. I don't want that in my life. I want the opposite. I want to be able to provide. I want to pay taxes. Step on that, right? Taxes are a responsibility that I want. I want to play my part. I want to contribute to the system. I want to hold their feet to the fire to ensure that it is correct. All of that is a positive thing. This is the opposite. Everybody else can do it. I can't. Anybody else can get what they want. I can't. I'm just stupid. I'm in a state of chaos, right? You have a sphere of action as well. You are not dull and incapable. Well, maybe. Here's the other thing, right? Ordinary men look bright and intelligent. No, they do not. Take the average man. Just think of the average man and the decisions that he makes. Are they bright and intelligent? Probably not. Now, think about this. That average means that half of the people are stupider than that. Is that ordinary man looking bright and intelligent? No. The only ones that actually look bright and intelligent, or the only ones that actually are bright and intelligent, are the exceptions to the rules. They are the ones that are diligent. They are the ones that take hope, have faith. They are the ones that practice patience. They are the ones that show thankfulness. They are the ones that give generosity. They are the ones that have moderation, right? That is the ones with the intelligence. That is the exceptionally small part of the population. Now, granted, that average man, half of the people are smarter than him. That is true, but that's not all ordinary men, and that is the exceptional portion thereof. And so, once again, that is just simply not correct. That is looking at it wrong, right? That is his estimation of it. Everybody else is bright and intelligent, but I am the only one afflicted. I am the only one with any problems. Bullshit. Quit being a pussy. Man up. Take responsibility for your fucking life. Get some decisions. Make some choices. And get the fuck out there and do something. Tired of the victim mentality shit. Alright, 21. The grandest forms of active force from Tao come their only source. Who can of Tao the nature tell? Our sighted flies, our touch as well. Eluding sight, eluding touch, the forms of things, all in a crouch. Wow, that's a terrible. Eluding touch, eluding sight. Their semblances, all right. Profound it is, dark and obscure, things, essences, all there endure. Those essences, the truth enfold of what, when seen, shall then be told. Now it is so, 'twas so of old. Its name, what passes away, so in their beautiful array, things form and never know decay. How know I that it is so with all the beauties of existing things? By this, the nature of the Tao. Alright, so the grandest forms of active force from Tao came their only source. Now, Tao, in this implication, is going to be spirit. Spirit is quite literally everything in existence. Therefore, the only source is spirit. This is not that understanding, but that is the understanding that you should have. Who can of Tao the nature tell? Whoops. I've got a chapter in this book. It is the divine and the Trinity explained. I will try to remember. There is a video where I explained it, and that one is available to the public. Everything else in the book is restricted behind a paywall, but that is important, right? There is the spirit. I have an explanation for it. It is detailed in an hour-long video. If you wish to peruse it, that is going to be the Tao, right? The changing of the now into the next is going to fit all of the categories. And so I can, at least in part, I do not claim to know the fullness of the Holy Spirit, but I can do things with it. There's going to be a video coming soon, and if you're this far in, you might actually be interested. I've had a remarkable revelation with my aphantasia. We'll put it that way as a teaser, right? I've been able to do something that I was unable to do prior. And so I can, at least in part, tell something. I can, at least in part, tell something. Eluding sight, eluding touch, the form of things, all in a crouch. Now this is a terrible rhyme, right? Absolutely terrible. I do not know why he thought that just because the O-U-C-H was involved that it would be the same sound. It is not. Touch and crouch do not rhyme, right? There is I understand that they end the same. I know that is not rhyming. Rhyming is about meter as much as it is about resonance. That does not touch either one of those. And so I'm going to dismiss that. We're not going to deal with that because this guy did not interpret things correctly to begin with. Eluding sight, eluding touch, the form of things, all in a crouch. Yes, right? That is the spiritual side of things. That is quite literally the spirit. There are their semblances, all right. That is true as well. Now, that is true in the realistic expectation, not the idealistic expectation. That is, the idealistic expectation is that there is an archetype of man of which we are merely reflections of. That there is somewheres existent out there a perfect man. I don't believe that at all. God is not a man. Every man is an imperfect reflection of the divine, and therefore there is no perfect man. Right off the top. But contained within the Holy Spirit is the possibility for perfection. Even if we never attain it, the possibility is there. And so, contained within the Spirit is the possibility that everything will be perfect. All their semblances, all right. That works. As the archetype sitting out there as the perfect man doing something, right? What is the perfect archetype doing? Nothing. Merely existing. It's not a man. Alright. Profound it is, dark and obscure. That is partially intentional, right? Most people. Let's do it this way. There are clubs. There are many types of clubs. We talked about one. That would be government, right? The constitutional republic that we have, that's a club. The fascist government that China has, that's a club. The communist government that we see in the Amish community, that's a club. You can choose to participate in the clubs. You can choose not to participate in the clubs. There are other clubs. Christianity is a club. Judaism is a club. Islam is a club. It is a system of authority put into place to be the authority for a group of people who freely choose to associate with each other. A club. There are other ones. The other clubs are such as the Freemasons, the Illuminati, Skull and Bones, and the various other secret societies. The purpose of these secret societies through history has been twofold. On the one hand, they are about revelation. They are about exposing many of the things that are in this book, even though they did not have them, to select specific people. They choose and decide whether you are worthy to receive the knowledge. And their other function is to hide that knowledge, to keep it dark and obscure, to keep it away from other people so that they cannot do it. That was a function of the club, right? If I can do magic, manifest into my life, and I can, right? That was related to the aphantasia as well. Man, that's going to be a video. But on top of that, right, if they are hiding things, keeping it dark and obscure, and only revealing it to certain people. Profound it is, that is what is being revealed. Dark and obscure is keeping it from the other people. Things, essences, all there endure. That is also fitting the Spirit because everything is incorporated from the Spirit. The Spirit is quite literally every element in existence all at the exact same time. The Logos is that moving and changing. Your essence is in the Spirit. You are composed entirely of the Spirit. You are not the entirety of the Spirit, but you are made out of the entirety of the Spirit, or made entirely out of the Spirit, but the Spirit surrounds you. The air that is around you, the liquid that is around you, that is also part of the Spirit. The ground that you stand upon is also part of the Spirit, and its essence is contained within the Spirit. So yes, and even those essences, the truth enfold, yes. Of what, when seen, shall then be told? Something. Now it is so, 'twas so of old. Its name, what passes not away. So in their beautiful array things form and never know decay. Now this part right here, now its name, pause, what passes away, right? Now it is so, 'twas so of old. Yes, it is the exact same Spirit. Its name, Spirit, is my understanding. Other people have had other understandings, the Tao being one of them. What passes away is the method of referral, not the core essence, right? The core essence is the spirit. What you use to describe the spirit can change, can pass away. And so in their beautiful array, things form. Yes, true. Never no decay. A little bit less of that energy. Things die. It is part of the process. It is nothing to be feared. I have what I consider to be a fairly good estimation of what is going to happen. There is no guarantee. I do not claim to hold that guarantee, but my understanding of it brings me absolutely no fear. But you will know decay here, right? I cannot say the same for there. That is somewheres that I am not. That is somewheres that I have had, well, 3 very brief encounters with, right? And so I do not have the full knowledge of whether things decay there, but I do have this. You, me, every person that you have ever met in your entire life, and everyone that you have never met, have all made a decision to incorporate. That is my understanding of how it works. That we were somewheres eternal and that we will return somewheres eternal. But for now, we have chosen to incarnate. And so, there, our spirit has decayed from that existence into this one. That is not the idealization, it is the realization, right? The reality of we are incarnated at the express will of God in His temple for His purpose. That is a decay from the spirit realm into the mortal realm. And I know that's not a one-on-one correlation, but it's probably a 1-to-2, right? It's pretty close to the right ratio. But that's where we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. We will pick up with 22 when we return. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a series of somewhat difficult topics. I understand that I hold some unconventional beliefs and I have a tendency to step on toes when I relay those, but it is not intentional and I do not apologize for it. It is important to point out the distinctions, the things that I have said. I do feel like it was important to point out. Victim mentality is one of the worst things that we have on the planet, and it is everywhere. Right? We have seen several examples. Now that might just be Mr. Leger's interpretation of things. It is not the correct interpretation that has been pointed out. But what we have seen here is victim mentality. What you see in Christianity is victim mentality, right? I'm not responsible for my sins. Somebody else can die to forgive them, right? That's not a biblical concept. And by biblical, I mean Old Testament. It is not based upon anything in the Old Testament at all. The distinction between you taking responsibility for your life and you giving someone else that responsibility makes all of the difference about your destination. You understanding that there is something to learn from every situation, no matter how bad, allows your mindset to change from victim mentality to opportunity mentality. Change your mindset from victim mentality to opportunity. That is where manifestation will manifest. If you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, a share, a follow, throw me a comment. Whether you agree or disagree with anything that was said, put it in the box down below. And if it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. If you really like what I'm doing over here, hit me with that super thanks. Consider joining for a membership or pick up a copy of my book where I teach you to do magic responsibly. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt State. Peace.